pictures that capture one of the biggest milestones of your life. Wedding photos can tell the story of your special day when they're done right. Wedding planner and author of Wonder-Filled Weddings, Michael Nolte, is here with four pointers on wedding posing and posture. So we know that you're a details count kind of guy, and how does that play a part when we're talking about posture on our big day for those important photos and walking down the aisle?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I find very important is when people are being photographed at a wedding, whatever their role is going to be, bridesmaids, groomsmen, bridegroom, or parents, I think I always want to dress them in a way that they look 2 inches taller and 5 pounds thinner. I've never had anybody argue that point.
Yeah, we like that a lot.
I really want to look shorter and chunkier. So these tips I'm going to give you today are how to look, 2 inches taller and 5 pounds thinner.
Okay, and all of these tips and advice, right? This isn't just going to be for the bride and groom.
No.
It's literally for everyone.
Yeah, right.
And at some point, you will be in a wedding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you'll be photographed. So we can start with bridesmaids if we like. One of the things the bridesmaids do frequently, historically, is that they use their bouquets as sort of a shield. As they become nervous, this is my very expensive bouquet that I took hours to choose at Hobby Lobby. But as they're coming down the aisle, they'll start like this, and then they bring it up as they're walking, and pretty soon it's like this. Well, the downside of that is that when you hold a bouquet like this becomes your waist. If you hold your bouquet down like this becomes your waist.
Okay.
So lower is always better.
Okay, and I feel like I've kind of done this before if you're wearing a strapless dress, so we probably need to just go ahead and drop it down.
Down low, absolutely. It's funny, when I checked in this morning at the front desk, one of the ladies there said, "I know what you're going to talk about today." And she said, "I was at a wedding in which we had flowers on our arms." She said it was like an armband of flowers. And she said the downside is I had nothing to cover my gut. So back to the 5 pounds thinner thing. Lower is always better. Tip them toward the floor.
Okay, now let's also talk about the guys, right? So do they also get to look 2 inches taller and just a little bit slimmer?
Yes, they certainly can if they would remember to do what I'm not doing right now. But men should always button the top button of their jacket. This is my pre-holiday jacket, so it's a little snug.
We won't fault you there.
But always, guys, button this top button here on your jacket. If you're ever going to be standing casually for a picture, and if this is unbuttoned, and you put your hand in your pocket, well, if I can unbutton the button, that always has to stay buttoned. But always be sure your thumb shows.
And does this kind of give you a more casual look as well?
Yeah, and you got to hold the jacket back, but be sure it's not like this. Be sure that your thumb is out. And guys, you always want to put your feet closer together than you typically think you would. The position would know, and Belinda, you would know this as a dancer, third position.
Okay.
And third position,
here we go, like kind of this T?
Put the feet in the T, right? Put the toe toward the camera and the other leg slightly behind it. You always want, this is for bridesmaids and guys as well, but have your legs look like a trunk rather than two separate appendages like that.
Wow.
That's an important thing.
Okay, well, I like that middle stance. Now, we're also going to talk about the appearance of the bride. So this is something that everybody waits for because you want to see what she looks like in her dress. But what happens once she reaches the altar?
Right, everybody looks at the front of the bride as she's coming down the aisle going, oh, that's the moment.
Yeah.
But then when she gets to the altar, one of the reasons that brides will choose their gown is because how it looks from the back. And they oftentimes forget that. So it always takes generally 2 attendants to fluff out that train. And when I say attendants, it doesn't have to be 2 bridesmaids. It could be the maid of honor and the best man, but I want that train to fluff out like a peacock tail. So I'm all about the visual, and that is going to make the bride again look taller and more stately at the altar if the train's perfectly fluffed. Okay,
and you have to think about it, at the wedding, you spend so much time looking at the back of the train.
Absolutely.
You got to get it right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then also, what about the mothers of the newlywed, right? Do you have some advice there, and maybe 2-5 styling?
I do. Again, the 2 inches taller, 5 pounds thinner. And if moms are in their 50s when their children are getting married, sometimes they're starting to show some age, and the 2 places that they will show it in their body is going to be their upper chest or in their hands. They've been in the pool too often with not enough SPF, not a wide brim hat, and this is where the wrinkling and the freckling comes in. So if a mother has some wrinkling and freckling here, wear a sheer neck bodice or a statement necklace, which takes the eye away from that. And also then when they're holding their hands, rather than their hands by their sides, and maybe they're kind of veiny or bony here. In that last picture we saw where the mother of the bride was carrying her nice clutch bag slightly to a bend like this. So we want to avoid moms particularly standing like this. They're not in a sorority any longer. That's very cliche.
No little sorority girl with the hip hop?
None of that for moms. But it gives the mom that subtle effect by just having her handbag just slightly crooked in her arm.
And nobody says no to a fabulous bag.
That's exactly right. Always worth it. It's a great accessory. And then the other thing I think would be that whenever I'm doing choreography for runway shows with models, I always tell them not to necessarily worry about sucking it in, but pull it up. So if they would imagine if they were like a puppet with all their weight coming from a sternum right here, that they would lift up, lift up, lift up. And in doing that, it automatically does flatten the tummy, bring the shoulders back. Groomsmen should always be in perfect posture, which we saw in that last photograph.
Yeah.
And when they're standing at the altar, I always try to remember, I tell them, remember, right is right, meaning the right hand over the left hand.
Right over left.
Right, so when
There
they
we
get
go.
confused, they go, what do you say, behind, in front, down your side? No, right is right. So with those, we saw those guys, right over right, slight 3/4 turn to the camera, never full front, way too broad, never profile because it shows that you're slouching or hunching over like that.
Just kind of that
3/4 turn.
twist. Yeah.
Just that twist, 3/4
Michael,
turn.
thank you so much for all the advice.
It's the little stuff that counts.
Yeah.